to start our first machine learning algorithm under supervised learning, that is linear regression. So before starting, I recommend you to see the statistics video that I have covered in the same playlist, especially the statistics part 2, in which I am covering different types of correlations, what is variance, what is bias, and all those things. So because we are going to use some of them in today's class, so yeah, if you have not seen that, please go and watch and then continue watching this session. Okay, so let's get started. So first we are importing all those inputs that we need, and we are going to use a data set for which I can share you that. So if you go and find search for sales prediction on Kaggle. So if you don't know what is Kaggle, like for coding we have CodeChef, HackerOne or HackerRank, these kind of things. So for data science or machine learning model generating, those kind of competitions we used to have on Kaggle.com. Okay, so here we are given a problem set along with the different data sets, and like too many people many people submit there, and based on their model the Kaggle tries to predict on their test data, which they don't provide us. They provide us the sample data, and like whoever gets more the prediction, they'll get points or whatever the problem statement based on their reward system they used to give points or rewards. Okay, so yeah, you can search for this, or I can share this link in the description. Okay, coming back to our linear regression, first we try to import. Okay, so here this is for graphs, this is for reading from the file, this is for splitting our data into train and test, and this is for this scatter matrix will, like if we have 5 columns, it will give us each column versus all other columns. It will plot graph for us, and this is a Pearson coefficient correlation. This will give us that. Okay, so what happens inside, what is the range, what is positive correlation, what is negative correlation, all that I covered in the statistics video. Okay, so first we are going to read this advertising.csv, and any queries with respect to the reading and also all those I think you have completed in the playlist. So now we are going to simply use all those concepts. Okay, so this is a comma separated, so we are using a read csv function provided by pandas. So if I execute that and then I try to see the head, so this is like unnamed is a serial and a number which they have provided us. So if I want, I can drop it here itself, but there is no need of that. So here our intention is, like we are trying to figure out like if we are doing the investment on TV in this much, 230.1, and on radio this much, and on newspaper this much, we are having this 22.1 as a sales. So like this we have too many number of samples for which we are given that if this is the investment in each of the categories, our is this much. Okay, so we need to consider this data to predict the further data, like for the prediction. Okay, so now let's see the information about that. So we can see the column names and how many nulls are there, what is the data type. Okay, so all these things we can see, and we are given 200 entries, so that's what we get from the information. Similarly, we can search for summaries and all, but as of now it is not required. So I am simply like, this is a scatter matrix, as I've already told that we will get the graph of each column versus all. Okay, so this diagonal KD I am using. So the options that we are having is, I can get by clicking shift tab, and in that I can see what all things we have under the diagonal thing. So diagonal means I'll show you in a minute. So we have two values, hist and KD. Hist is the default value, so I want to use KD. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so this you can see. So this unnamed you can remove, but not required. Like remaining all we can see graphs of each column versus the other column. So our concentration is sales versus all other columns. So sales versus sales is not required. So the KD or hist that we just seen diagonal option, so that is for the graphs along the diagonal. So if I give hist, I will get histograms along these diagonals, which is nothing but it's like a sales. Okay, so if you see unnamed versus unnamed, TV versus TV, then radio versus radio, then so that is what the diagonal thing. But as of now our focus is on the last row. I'll zoom in a bit. Okay, this one is fine, I guess. Right, so here we can see the first unnamed is not required. So sales versus TV, I can see that there is some relationship going on. Okay, And similarly, sales versus radio, again I can see the dispersion or variation is more, but again there is some possibility of relation, but not the positive correlation. If I try to find again sales versus TV, it will be more, but compared to like radio, it will be less correlated. Okay, now seeing the relation between sales and newspaper, it is highly dispersed, and I don't see any proper relation in this. But yeah, so this kind of interpretation we can do when seeing the graphs. But as of now, let's as I have seen that y equal to mx plus c is our like a line equation. Okay, so let me open my presentation and show you. So this I have explained in my statistics part. It is not so much like writing is not good, but yeah, you can understand. So if this is the line, right, you can say this is the line which is intersecting at a point called C, and the slope is m for the attribute for the line along the x axis. Okay, so for that we have y equal to mx plus c. So here x is one attribute. Similarly, if we have multiple attribute, then we can say m1 x1, m2 second attribute, m3 third attribute. But first we will see against the single attribute, then we'll move on to the three multiple attributes. Okay, yeah, so first we are taking the okay, so here we are filtering that in the data set there is a column TV which I want to consider as my x-axis and the sales as my y-axis. So here I am dividing my data set, and then in that data set I am splitting into training and testing. So the training is on which I'll try to train my model, or I can say fit my model, and to find the accuracy or the other formulas like how sensitive or how what is the recall, what is the precision and all, I'll use my test data. Okay, so here I am saying you 30% means that out of the 100 tuples, as of now we have 200 rows, right? So in that 140, yeah, so 140 records, it's like 70% will be going to training and the 30% will be going to the testing. So then I am creating an object for linear regression, and I am trying to fit my x train. So that you can see x train, y train is for testing, x test, y test is for testing. So here I am simply fitting it, and as you have seen in the equation, y equal to mx plus c. So here c is the intercept and m is my coefficient. Okay, so that's how line equation is formed. So if I try to print this, you can see so here my equation will be like, oh, what happened? Okay, I didn't execute this. I have to split this and this. Yeah, so you can see my coefficient is this. So what will be my equation? My equation will be y is equal to this, m is my 0.0494 into whatever x values that I want to give plus my intercept, that is 6.8242. So that's how this equation is formed. Because we are using a single variable, we are getting a single intercept, sorry, single coefficient. Okay, next we are going to use multiple columns, then we are going to get multiple coefficient. So that's how the line equation is formed. Now we'll see. So score means it will give us accuracy on x test and y test. So here I am getting a 51% accuracy. Why? Because we have chosen only one TV to predict the sales, but we have not considered other outputs. So it's like even you take the less data, that is not correct. Even if you take more data, then also it is not good for predicting. So we have to take the exact or good amount of data so that our model that we are building is stabilized one. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So here we are getting 51% of accuracy. Now if I want to predict something, I will be passing it in form of data frame. Okay, so here I want to predict what will be my sales when my investment in the TV is 10. Okay, so then I'll get 7 point something. Okay, so that was my prediction model with respect to one column, that is only TV. Similarly, I am taking the minimum of the TV and maximum of TV, and I'm going to plot it on the whole data set of TV so as to see how the axis is going. Okay, so this was my complete. If you can see, this graph is which graph? This graph is this TV, sales versus TV. Okay, and then on the sales versus TV, I am simply predicting the value of the minimum one and predicting the value of the maximum one, and I'm trying to draw the line. So this is, I can say this is my axis or line equation. Okay, so instead of predicting and plotting the line, I can also plot the line y equal to mx plus c, but that's what I am doing here with by doing predicting. Okay, now we are going to see, okay, this is again, okay, now OLS is nothing but ordinary least square. So is there a difference between linear regression and OLS? No, both are same. Okay, so this is simply another way of we can say uh, using the linear regression. Okay, so here what is the difference is because the loss function or the cost function that we are using is different. So if you don't know what is loss function or what is cost function, I can, okay, I can tell you here. Okay, let me take one more slide. So what happens in the learning is, let me clear the screen. Okay, so okay, yeah, then this one. So let's suppose our equation is y equal to mx plus c. Okay, and when we are giving points, right, at the time what happens is it will take one of the point. Okay, let's say 1 comma 2. Okay, so y is equal to 2 and x equal to 1 means what will be the value of m? We don't know. So we are going to take the second point. So this is x and this is y for suppose. So this is 3, this is 4. So in this case what will happen? 4 is equal to m into 3 plus 4. Okay, plus c. So we have two equations. So from these two equations can we get the value of m and c? Yes, we will get the value of m and c. So based on this we are getting 1 m and c values. But if I take third record, like this x and y will have like too many records, right? So if I try to take this third record, that is 5 and 6, then I am going to get different m and c. So what I am trying to say is, like for every new record my m and c are going to change a bit, right? So here m and c will be again different. So what happens internally is, when I find m and c with respect to 5 and 6 again, so for understanding sake, let's say we got m and c value as, okay, let me calculate and try to write value. Okay, leave aside calculation. So our thing is, okay, so based on these two equations we got one value of m and c. Let's say our value was m1 and c value is c1. Okay, now our third record is 5 and 6. So here what I am going to do is I am going to find my y bar, that is predicted by using m1 into what is my x value. My x value is 5 plus what is my c value? C1. So based on this I got a y bar. Okay, now my actual value is 6 but I got y bar, so there is an error, right? So for that what I am going to find is y minus y bar whole square. Now similarly I am going to find this difference with all the other records as well. So I am going to sum up all of them. This is sigma, and suppose this is n records, I am going to divide it by n. Okay, so this is how I am finding my error. Okay, now this is my error. So with this I am finding my error, so I should do something with this, right? So with this error I am going to see like how much or by what speed or by what rate should I increase or modify my m value or my c value. So for that what I am going to do is I am going to find the rate of change of error with respect to rate of change of m. Similarly, rate of change of error with respect to rate of change of my intercept. So this I am going to find, and then so this error that I calculated, right, this formula is known as mean square error. So where n is the number of observations that I have taken for y and y bar. Okay, so how the m or c changes is my m1 or my m new is nothing but my m old. So this is very important formula. Okay, my m old minus, okay, I have to take pen again. Okay, my m new is nothing but my m old minus alpha of this error. Okay, so let me tell you what is alpha, but I hope this is clear. Similarly, c new is equal to c old minus alpha of error. So this is how I am going to calculate a new m and c new. So what happens basically is, since this is my graph, here this formula, what this formula is doing is, when first the slope is formed, right? Suppose this is my y bar, this is my y bar, this is my y bar, but for this y, like for this x, actual y is this, and I predicted y bar here. Okay, so the difference between them and them is this much, right? So this distance square I am finding. Similarly for this point, if suppose y is here and y bar is here, so this distance from the predicted, like the difference between the actual and predicted, so that I am finding here and taking the mean of them by dividing by n, and I am multiplying that error by alpha. So alpha is known as learning rate. Okay, now what is learning rate? Now before going into learning rate, just assume that it is some constant for now. Okay, for now we'll cover that in a moment, but for now just assume that alpha is just a simple learning rate, which is a constant. So m new is changing based on my old m and my error. So the more error I make, the more pushed I am towards the opposite direction. So why I am doing this, let me explain you with the graph. Okay, so here, okay, so first suppose this was my graph, okay, and this was my data points, this, and this was my line. Okay, now the error is this, okay, so all this I found, and now for this my slope was m1 comma c1. Now based on my m2 is equal to m1 minus learning rate of error. Similarly c2 is equal to c1 minus learning rate of e. So I got new m2 and c2. So based on this I am getting a new line. Okay, so for this my slope is m2 and my intercept is c2. So I am getting a new line. So again I am going to find the error. So that process is going to repeat and repeat again. So how much is this going to happen, like for how many iterations? As soon as my error, like for every new m2 and c2, my error is starting to decrease. So I can also restrict based on number of iterations, or I can say if error, I can give a threshold for this. Okay, I can either restrict on iterations, or I can restrict, okay, if this much is the error, then I am good, no problem. Otherwise the default values it will take. And finally the error that we used here, right, to calculate error, that is a mean square error. So that I can say it is a loss function, or I can also say that it is a cost function. So these terminologies are very important: cost function, loss function. So these two things are coming into picture when we are calculating error. So based on this, a new iteration or a new equation is formed, and based on this it is decided whether to stop the iteration or not. So this updation of m and c continuously to get a new line or new formation of equation is what we say that a model is learning. That's it, nothing more, nothing less. So this was happened in case of a one axis, right? Similarly, when we are going to cover multiple attributes, now the same behavior will be reflected for the multiple attributes as well. Okay, so here instead of m2 or m1, I can also say that m new is equal to m old, c new is equal to c old. Okay, because in case of multiple attributes, we are going to have access like m1 x1 plus slope 2 of second attribute plus slope 3 of third attribute. So I don't want you to confuse m2 with this m2. Okay, so here we were simply saying the new m. Okay, so next time we are going to like represent this complete thing as a capital M and a capital X. So this is a list of X, so this is a list of M, or I can say series of M and X plus C. So that's how we are going to consider. Okay, so now coming to the learning rate. Okay, so this is again a very important question. Now this concept will be applicable for all the algorithms, so that's why listen it very carefully. One second. Okay, so here I am taking an example to show what is learning rate and what is the constant value that we need to give if we are giving, otherwise what is the default value that it is going to take. Okay, so let's say this is my graph, okay, and this is my error function. Or I can show you the Google image, one second. Yeah, so here I have taken a Google image, very interestingly it has shown. So this the curve that you are seeing is the for suppose a learning curve. Okay, so here our alpha is nothing but a learning rate. So if I try to update my m, like by a very big margin, for suppose when I'm doing m1 is equal to m new is equal to m old minus learning rate of some error. Okay, so at that time if my alpha value is more, okay, so the more the value of alpha, the more the value on the right hand side, and the more is the changes on the left hand side. That is, if here you can see theta 1 is nothing but I can say m old is equal to m, okay, m new is equal to m old minus alpha of my error. So here if I say that alpha is suppose 100, so in that case the m will also be having a huge effect. So in that case, if you can see in the second curve, my error function is there, and when I'm trying to change my m, so it changed by huge, that's why error is also getting reflected huge. So it doesn't know where to go, where to come, because we are changing it by huge. If we do small changes, then we can see, okay, we are going in correct direction, or okay, we are going into correct direction. So as soon as the next step is wrong direction, I will come back. Okay, I can say that, okay, this is my what I can say, the lowest function. Okay, so let me draw that and show you the same thing, nothing different. So this is my error curve. Okay, when I'm learning slow, like suppose my alpha is equal to 100 for suppose. Okay, so for the m1 c1 I was here. When the next modification happened, instead of learning slowly and taking a step like this, I took the big step. So there's a possibility that I might reach to error, least error. Okay, this is error value. Okay, so I might there's a possibility that I might reach error is equal to 0, but that is very rare. Okay, so instead of this, what will happen, either I will go here, or either I will go here. Okay, then I will go here, then I will go here, then I will go here. But in this case, the possibility of reaching the minimum possible error will be very less. Okay, so that's why we try to take steps slowly. So taking steps slowly means when your error is here, okay, at that time your alpha is very less. So when you are trying to get the new slope, you will move like this slowly, then you will move slowly, then you will move slowly, like this you will be moving. Okay, and finally you are reaching here. So after this, if you are seeing that your error is increasing, then you will come back. Okay, I hope you are getting. So as soon as your error is increasing, you will come back. But here, right, in this case, you cannot see the error is what I can say, increasing, but you are also not able to find the minimum possible error. That's why it is recommended that you keep your alpha as less as possible. So the recommended optimal values we use is 0.01. Okay, so but again that's up to us. But that was our about our alpha and about the updation of the intercept and the coefficient. Okay, now let's get back to our coding part. Okay, so now so here the one which we used in linear regression, there our loss function was mean square error, but here we are using r squared. So this is again a different loss function, so in depth again we are not going to cover it now, but yeah, r square is one of the loss function. Again, if we see, r square is getting like more the r square, more is our accuracy. Now here if we see the there is some loophole in the r square. So what was the loophole? The more number of columns we are having, the r square value is also increasing, that is accuracy is also getting increasing. Though we have the similar kind of data, then why accuracy increasing based on the increase in data set? So then came a new thing called r squared edge. Okay, so what this edge does is this the calculation of r square edge also considers the number of columns. So in that case, the loophole is getting covered. So we are going to discuss r square and r square edge later on, but yeah, this is one more kind of getting accuracy, but it takes a different loss function. Okay, so this was what we learned so far. So we can consider that using a normal linear regression our accuracy was 51%. Here we consider only the TV as our column, and we predicted, like here I can predict for any other new TV value, and I can see if what happened. Okay, yeah, this value I need to keep. Fine. Okay, I have distributed, I have created a logistic regression, I am finding accuracy, so here something is wrong. Name TV is not defined. What happened? I think I need to execute the complete thing again. Let me do that. 1 second. Data head info TV, I got it. Linear regression, find score, we got. Okay, let me correct this and get back to you. Okay, so here I will try to find what is my sales when I am putting 70 as my investment. So this was, we were using a single parameter. Now we are going to use the 3 parameters, that is TV, radio and newspaper. So here again we are simply trying to get all this in our X, that is training, that is a feature column, and sales part in the Y column, and then we are going to divide it in the 70-30 format. So I hope this now it is clear. So we have suppose 100 rows, we are taking the 70 rows for training and 30 rows for testing. So that's how we are dividing, and then we are creating a new object for linear regression, and we are fitting X train. Okay, so for training we are going to use X train and Y train. Okay, so based on this again we are going to use X test and Y test to find my accuracy. So here you can see now the accuracy is increased to 90%. Why? Because we have all the correct data that we needed for the predicting. Because if you see in the normal data set that we were given, the sales was dependent on the TV, radio and newspaper as well. But if you see the graph, TV is contributing because it has a good relation. Similarly radio is contributing, but newspaper is not contributing that much. So is there any effect if I remove newspaper? Let me see that as well. So when we were using all 3 of them, okay, we were getting 90%. So this OLS is again ordinary least square, only the cost function or the error function is different, remaining all the concept will remain same. So this lm.summary will give us all different kinds of statistics. So you can see we can find the intercept, that is m1 and c. So how you will write the equation, that my sales is equal to this 0.0458 into the TV value, that is m1x1, plus 0.1885 m2 into radio value, plus 0.0010 into newspaper. So that's how y is equal to m1x1, m2x2, m3x3 plus coefficient. Now if you can see, the coefficient of newspaper is very less. So when I say y is equal to m1x1 plus m2x2 plus m3x3, now m3 is very less. So if there is any change in the x3, that will not much affect my y value, because the coefficient of the newspaper is very slow. So here I can say it is not much contributing to me. Now what is R squared and edge R squared, F statistics, all this I have covered in the statistics class. You can go and watch it there. So now what I am trying to do is, because my coefficient of newspaper was less, I am trying to remove my third attribute, and I am going to find my accuracy with only 2 attributes. So let me see now. You can see from my accuracy initially was 90%, and now I have removed my third column here, and I can see I'm still getting 89.7%. So this is 0.897 in terms of 0 and 1, but overall it is 89.7%. So I can say that I'm not much getting affected. But again, I got 90% when using linear regression, that is a different cost function. So I'm going to use with newspaper, without newspaper in the similar cost function for same kind of comparison thing. Okay, so you can see with and without I am getting the similar accuracy. So here I can say newspaper is not contributing much for the accuracy or improvement or providing information for prediction. So that is like unnecessary, and I can remove that column. So this is again a scatter matrix. And now this Pearson coefficient. So I can say that newspaper, how much newspaper is contributing towards the sale. So for that I can find my Pearson value. So what is the relation between them? So if I find that my Pearson is 0.22. So if you have read what is Pearson means, it ranges from -1 to 1, and if it is -1 means inversely proportional, that means it has a relation plus 1 means it is positively correlated, that means again it has a relation. And if the value of Pearson is close to 0, it means it has no relation at all. So close to 0 means the more close it is to 0, the less relation it is. So I can say newspaper has very less correlation with the sales, so I that is contributing less, so I have removed it simply. Okay, similarly I can try for uh, uh, TV. Let's see how much TV is contributing to sales. Now if I see it is 0.7, it means it is positively correlated and it is close to plus 1, so it is actually contributing much more than compared to what we say, compared to our, what was the previous advert? Yeah, newspaper. Similarly p-val. So if you know what p-value means, again I have covered it in the statistics video. So p-value is nothing but it is a p statistics value, so which ranges again from 0 to 1, and if it is like less than 0.05, I can consider that it is very significantly contributing. So what p-value is like, it is the inverse proportion of how much it is contributing to my output variable, that is sales variable. So if it is less than 0.05, which is yes it is, so I think it is contributing more. So that's what p-value and Pearson says. So let me show you the p-value when I was using newspaper. So here you can see it is 0.01. Okay, so here I can say that p-value is 0.01. So if I google it, what does that mean? So you can see here, so p-value less than 0.01 means that statistically highly significant, so less than 1 in a thousand chance of being wrong. It means based on the value that we get, it is saying that there is very rare chance that it will be wrong, but as per our conclusion what we are getting is that it is saying that it is not contributing much. So what so if you can see in the documentation, right, if I click on shift tab, so we got, okay, so this newspaper, right, we got 0.001 means it is good for us. But if I find in my complete research that we did so far, newspaper was not contributing much. So what is the reason? P-value, is it something wrong, or is it like something wrong in our understanding? No. So if I click on the documentation and if I see what happens, the p-value roughly indicates the probability of uncorrelated system, or we can say the p-value, right. So what our understanding was correct only, but what it is saying, the p-value are not entirely reliable but are probably reasonable for data sets larger than 500 or so. Okay, but if in big data set you get that p-value is 0.001 means it is good contributing, so no need to worry about that, so it is fine. But here, because we have only 200 records, it is not working fine. So we need to see what kind of data sets we are using, what kind of algorithm we are using, and again what kind of metrics we are using for finding the stability of a model. So yeah, that's it for today. And finally, the last thing that we are going to understand is we have built some model. Now this build was done in a seconds, but in case of neural networks or in case of big models, there is a possibility that it will take hours or hours time to build a model, right? So if you want to continue at some point, or if you want to save at some point, and if you want to use it in some other application, we need to store the model in some file. Okay, so for that we are using pickle, and then we are going to save it under .sav file, or we can save it as .pkl, so that is up to us. And then finally we are going to say that pickle.dump. And what was my model? My model was LM. Okay, so whatever model I want, I am storing it, I am predicting it, I am manipulating it, or whatever I am doing. Finally I am going to have that parameter and I am going to dump it. Okay, so this f is my pointer to that file, and in that file I am storing my model. So if I run that, I'll have this file saved in my local directory. Okay, so that was all about linear regression and multilinear regression. So multilinear is nothing but multiple attributes, so that was multilinear regression. We have one more thing called polynomial regression. So here we simply saw that y is equal to m1 x1 m2 x2 m3 x3, so all the x powers was 1. Okay, but there's a possibility that we are going to use x2 x square, x2 square, x3 square, like that. So all that will come under the polynomial regression, where the power of x1 is might be 1 or might be 2 or more. Okay, so based on that, what we can say is linear regression is a part of polynomial regression. So that's the only difference. The curve, instead of straight, the curves might be like the square curve is different, the cube curve is different, like that we'll have a different types of curves. So that is how we go for the polynomial regression. So there, instead of having x, we are going to have x square. So only the data will be different, but the complete concept will remain same. So I hope you got the clear picture, and if you have any queries with respect to the statistics concept that we have covered previously, I'll have this Jupyter notebook in the description as well. So those statistics that we have studied previously, I have written a short notes on that and added as well. So here we are not using some of the techniques here, so this we are going to use in the coming algorithm, but as of now we are not using this. So because this is our first algorithm and there will be many new concepts that we are coming across, so it is we will not be able to observe everything. So yeah, so I have limited some of the concepts. So now the remaining concepts we are going to cover in each of the algorithms. So the next algorithm that we are going to learn is the logistic regression. Okay, so for with respect to the statistics concept and the linear regression and the multilinear regression, if you have any queries, please write down in the comment sections. Yeah, that's it for today. And if you liked my explanation, or if yeah, if you liked my explanation, please subscribe, like and share and support. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.